welcome to the PHENIX Podcast. This is your first appearance. We got Joel and Ange, lead investigators. You guys focus both of you, on asset search. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So obviously, typically the podcast has been Brian and I talking about, special investigations, kind of behind the curtain of the business. And obviously, PHENIX is well known among attorneys and business people for asset search. Brian and I are typically talking at kind of a high level, strategic level. Both of you are the boots on the ground technicians. So I was just kind of hoping to get a little bit more depth into what is the day-to-day of an asset search. Brian and I are always talking about the biggest, wildest, multi-layered. So I kind of wanted to start with, Joel, I know you've been doing this a little bit longer. What is the most typical asset search look like? Not a wild one. What is just an everyday, not worth telling anybody at home about your workday, just run-of-the-mill asset search? Talk to us about the type of call you get, the conversation that leads up to it, what it looks like, and how you close it out.
Yeah, so I mean, we have two different kinds, I would say, that are kind of our typical. I'm sure Brian's mentioned it. We have kind of just the surface level investigation. We have a little bit more in depth, prying into somebody's life a little bit more. Both of those probably stem from the same thing more often than not, which is just judgments. People who have gotten screwed on a business deal, who are owed money, loan people money, loan the wrong person money, and they haven't been able to collect back on that money. So they come with us with a court document that says that they have the right to go after X amount of dollars from this person or business. And so they call us up, and most people either don't understand fully what an asset search is, and they've heard it, and so that's all they ask for. And so we have to kind of walk them through that. And it's like, okay, so how much money are you willing to throw after the investigation to get your X amount of dollars back? So we have to determine kind of how strong the emotions are with the client. We have some clients that have very little that they're chasing after, but they want to burn the entire earth to get that money back, and they don't care if they spend triple the amount that they're owed. And then we have the people who are owed $1 million who don't want to spend $100 to get any money back. So I think that's kind of our first part that sets us apart, is that we actually just have a conversation with the client, engage their expectation, and how far we're actually going to take the investigation. The surface level, is kind of just that. It gives us a good starting point to tell them whether it may be worth it to chase these people or not. So a lot of people who screw people out of money, they may not have money themselves. So a lot of our debtors, Brian says it a lot, robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so a lot of clients just want to know, do I spend $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 in attorney's fees to go after this person if they don't have anything? So that's kind of that surface level, looking at very basic stuff, cash accounts, property, vehicles, businesses, where they could or have the opportunity to hide funds at. So we lay all of that out, and then we have the deeper dive portion that goes deeper into the financials, goes deeper into all of those topics as well, property, vehicles, businesses, relationships, and allows us to actually go back historically to show any kind of transfers of those assets, any of the people who may be affiliated with the other businesses who had the opportunity to help hide that debtor's money. I think that's a big misconception. A lot of people come to us and they're like, oh, well, we think this guy's 3 friends are involved and he's given them $1 million to hide for him. Typically, that's not the case. I always tell clients that, think on your hand how many people you would trust to give $100,000 to, and I guarantee it's less than the 5 fingers on your hand. I mean, there's very few people that would trust anybody in the world with that amount of money. So it's really diving into their life and seeing what other opportunity they have to hide those funds under, and then listing those out, and then how aggressive do we want to be pursuing those things.
Interesting. So say, just an estimation, say out of the last 100 asset search cases that you've looked at, How many of them were that surface level one, and how many are in the deeper end?
It fluctuates. I would say on average it's probably 50-50. There are fluctuations where we get a lot more, we call it financial profiles, that's the surface level, a lot more advanced assets that are the deep dive. It never really stays just right there at 50-50. I think it kind of fluctuates depending on the time of year. I would say the first part of the year, I feel like we get a lot more of the deeper dive, and I don't know if it's just the summer months. People are just willing to go out and spend money. They're outside. They want to catch people doing stuff. And then in the colder months, getting towards the end of the year, people are more concerned about budget and those types of things, going over budget. And so we get a little bit handcuffed. All the holidays coming in, people are, spending a lot more money during the last part of the year versus the first part of the year. So I would say first part of the year we get a lot more of the deeper dive, and then it kind of tailors off and a lot more financial profiles and a lot more budget conscious people.
So you mentioned something interesting. A lot of the time I'm talking to Brian it's like more of like a judgment recovery. There's been a case and a judgment, and then we're trying to go get that. You mentioned the case of, hey, I'm thinking about litigating this person, and I want to see, is what they're trying to do, is the juice worth the squeeze?
Yeah.
Does this person have money?
Yeah. We do a lot of pre-litigation stuff, during litigation stuff. So not only the ending, a lot of people come to us after they get the judgment, but even before that. So we do a lot of that pre-litigation screening. Is it worth going after the person? We coach a lot of our clients on, as they're going through the litigation, that's when people start panicking, especially if they think that they are going to get caught and they're going to get all of their assets seized. That's when a lot of people start moving stuff. So we do a lot of stuff at the beginning of litigation to say, hey, here's that footprint that this person holds. And then as it goes through, we may update it, 1, 2, 3 different times to give the attorney that opportunity to show the judge of hey, this is what he had when we started. He had whatever it was, 50 grand in this bank account, a couple of properties. He's moved this property out. He doesn't have anything. Now he's turning his pockets inside out. And it's well, 6 months ago or a year ago, you were flush with cash. So where'd all that go? And that kind of gives the attorney that opportunity to argue with the judge of, did he involve his spouse now? Did he involve another business? Did he create another business to hide stuff under, and then allows that attorney to go back and add those people or that business to that litigation process to have us then go after those.
Oh, so that can be critical to the attorney's work, the pre-litigation investigation.
100%, yeah.
So, the pre-litigation would be more of an advanced asset because you're kind of doing a deeper dive and a wider look, and then post-litigation you have more information, so the investigation's more targeted. Is that what you're getting at?
Well, no, because it doesn't apply to every situation. So sometimes you can get all the way through litigation and with a default judgment, and you know nothing about the debtor. They never showed up to court. They didn't argue. They didn't provide any discovery, and you still don't know anything. And then sometimes it comes down to a budget. What's worth, if it's a $100,000 judgment, I would think you'd want us to spend more time understanding what's going on. If it's $10,000, we might not be a good fit cost-effective wise to look into things, but we can always do a bank search or a financial profile, which is a little less, the $1,500 for a financial profile. But when you have a smaller judgment, it might not be worth it. So sometimes our clients are handcuffing us for different reasons. So it might be budget, it might be because they know or don't know something about a client or a subject.
So picking up where we left off, Brian and I talk a lot about, and Joel, you hit on the exception to this earlier. Some people are not thinking about ROI. There's an emotion behind it. And it's I want to get after this person, and I don't care how much it costs. I'm not going to let him get away with it. But it seems like there's so much, and it always is the case with complicated things where experience matters. There's a lot of it depends. And you all of you at Phoenix that I talk about seem to understand the business case and the concept of like, is there an ROI here? Does this make sense to pursue? And how much should we invest in the pursuit of this based on what the potential outcomes are? Is it just pretty much a does the spend make sense conversation a lot of times?
Yeah, I mean that definitely is a high percentage of our conversations with our clients. But one thing that I think that sets us apart, and I tell this to probably 90% of my clients, is that I'm not here to bullshit you. I'm not here to take your money. You're not a cash cow. For everybody, I mean, I've trained most of the investigators that work at Phoenix now, and that's the one consistent thing that I see is that we all get invested into every case, big or small. We get pissed off with the client, we get angry with the client, we anger towards the actual debtor, not sometimes towards them, but for the most part, we feel their emotions along with them. So that investment becomes ours as well. So even though we're not spending the money, we're not gonna tell you to go do something just because it pays the bill for the next day for us or anything like that. And I tell, like I said, the majority of my clients, if I get to a point and I think that it's not worth it, and I think that you're throwing good money after bad, I will tell you that. And if you tell me to keep going, I will probably tell you to not do it and then still continue on if that's what you want to move forward with. But I am very okay with sending a client away knowing that they're going to return to us if they ever have a problem again.
I believe that we're kind of in a BS culture right now, and there's just a lot of yappers and scammers out there. And I think what people want out of vendors is just be direct and be straightforward and say things even if I might not want to hear them. Like, Joel, you might be one of the most straightforward people that I've interacted with, and I think that's exactly what people want. I'm sure you tell people, you get a lot of phone calls and you have a lot of conversations. There's times where you tell people like, hey, this doesn't make sense to do, in my opinion. What does that conversation look like?
Yeah, we have that problem or all the time, actually. I mean, a lot of people, like I say, hear these buzzwords from TV, from online, from whatever investigative time that they think that they've spent online doing, and so they call us. And like I said, I mean, asset investigation is one of those words. People say that and they have no idea what that actually entails. We get a lot of attorneys that call up and they want an asset investigation, and then we start talking about financial accounts and getting bank account information, and they're like, oh, they hit the brakes and they say, well, we don't want to do anything illegal. And it's like, you're not doing anything illegal. I mean, we have checks and balances that we go through, so we have permissible purpose that we have to check and make sure that we have to be able to access the information and the type of information that we get. So financial information is one of those. Social security numbers is another one. I mean, we get audited on a yearly basis from most of our resources that we use to gather this information. The financial portion of it, through the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act, the Privacy Act that the United States has, we have to hit certain parameters to be able to access this. So neighbors can't call and just say, I want to know what Joe Blow next door has because he bought a new boat and I want to be the bigger man on the block. No, you don't have permissible purpose to look into his financials. But there's multiple permissible purposes. There's 8 kind of overarching ones. I think 5 or 6 of those are with permission from the person that you're actually looking into. So that's where, when you go log into Experian, you're giving their permission to look at your credit information. So that's what 5 or 6 of them are. The other ones are have nothing to do with the actual debtor that you're looking into, and a lot of that's court documents. So that judgment process that people go through and get, that gives permissible purpose for us to look into somebody's financial information. It goes insurance information, or an insurance case gives that permissible purpose to help them with their underwriting and if there's a car accident and those types of things. There is a section for employment, but that again is another one of those where that person's usually giving their permission for you to look into their background or something like that. There's child custody cases. that gives us permissible purpose. So there's a lot of attorneys that call us and we have that conversation where they have no idea that we can actually get financial information, and it blows their minds. And it's like, you're in the law world. I don't understand.
That's what I'm fascinated with. So that's a common occurrence for, both of you from attorneys, that they're not aware that there's an access level here?
I would say less common, but I mean, I've had that conversation more than I ever thought I would. Attorneys just don't understand that information's out there legally for us to get. I mean, there are some portions of financial information that we cannot get that is private, but what people are looking for, typically, that's why they come to us, is because we can get that type of information. So like, bank account balances, the institution that they bank with, the type of account that they're using. One of the things that we cannot get that is private is like bank account numbers. So we can't tell the attorney, what the actual account number is, but we can tell how many checking accounts that they do have, the balance that are usually in those. And there's some varying information that we get from our resources, but.
Wow, that's interesting. So, like one thing Brian says, we talk about periodically is this concept of, if every attorney in America knew what our capabilities were, it would be an infinite money printing machine and the phone would never stop ringing. What do you think, I guess, related to asset search, if you could broadcast to every attorney in America one thing, what would that be?
I mean, the financial portion of what we do is probably one of the biggest that people call about. But the other thing that we do is that you're not just buying a print off and here you go report. You're actually buying our expertise. You're buying our 30 years of experience. You're buying, the past 100 cases that we've just done that's been exactly like this. You're getting all of that we can put into a report, and then on top of the report, have a conversation and actually give you direction on.
I come from a marketing world, and I've been in an agency before, and a lot of times clients will approach you with this idea that, hey, I want you to do these tasks and give me this report like you're a set of extra hands that they're calling. And then they pick up the phone and hear you talk, and then really it's more of you're the guide through the conversation, not like the task rabbit.
100%. Yeah.
That's how it feels for you generally.
Yeah, I would say it's probably half and half dealing with business people and attorneys. There's some attorneys that call us and they're the attorneys that have never really gone through this. They don't really know what to do, and so they're very attentive and they want to know, what we do, how we do it, all of those things. And then we get the other half that call us, and that's what they're used to, is just telling somebody to do something and then having it put in front of them. And they get a look at it, and I think that's controlling the client. And I say that with a grain of salt of, like, we don't want to control the client, but I mean, you have to keep their expectations in check with A, what we can do, and then B, you're not going to just bark orders at us either. You're going to sit down and have a conversation with us. You're going to answer our questions as well, because we're here to help you. It may be a pain in your day. It may be a break that you're not, working for your company and making money, but we're also here to help you get the money returned back to you that you're actually missing. So a lot of business people that are used to just giving orders to people, we have to kind of pull them and rein them in. And it's like, hey, you're not going to bark at us. We're going to have that conversation. We're going to ask you questions. You're going to sit down and talk with us. And you're not going to get your information until you do either. And we're going to walk over everything. We're going to make sure that you don't have any questions, and we're going to make sure that you understand where you're moving forward beyond this point, whether that's with us or not.
Yeah, it's tough. Sometimes you have to have a difficult conversation, and really, like, all that it is I'm trying to give you the maximum benefit of my service and expertise. And sometimes it's a little rocky to get to that collaborative.
Very much so. I've butted heads with a lot of my clients, and I mean, there have been very few that have had a bad taste in their mouth walking away, versus the ones that we butt heads, and then it's like, hey, you can really see that I'm on your side, and I'm being an ass to you because it's for your benefit. It's not that I want to be, it's not anything like that. It's like, I want to work with you, but you got to work with me as well.
I know before Brian and I started working together, I think both of us had blood dripping down our foreheads. And I think that's kind of the start of any good long relationship that's collaborative
For sure.
and like mutually beneficial. God, excuse me. So I'm just really stuck on the concept of like these attorneys calling you. Is if it's not attorneys, so be it. But is there a type of attorney or other customer that you think is like most blown away by the PHENIX service? Like the biggest difference between what they expect and what they deliver? Is it someone that's used PIs before and then they get a better result from you or a better experience? Is it someone that's never used them? Is it a private citizen or attorney? What type of person is blown away by you?
Yeah, I think we get a mixed bag. I mean, Ange gets, and she, I think, likes for how many cases that she gets of this type. But we get a lot of attorneys that are probate attorneys. She has a lot of experience in that aspect and deals with a lot of those cases. A lot of those attorneys don't understand. They don't really ever go through that process of hiring a PI to see what assets are out there. I mean, they kind of get just the back end of like what somebody's will says, and then they kind of distribute it and help the executor along the process. But we get a lot of those cases where families committing fraud, families stealing from each other, all of the infighting and those things. So I think a lot of those attorneys are blown away. I mean, a lot of people, regular citizens, I think, are blown away. And we get a mixed bag of those because a lot of people either have the expectation that we're going to get the moon for them, and then we get the other part that just have no idea, and they just got told by their attorney to come call us or call API to help them through the process.
Right. I get a lot of attorneys who appreciate our level of service and our reports. So they may have been using or had a regular vendor prior to us, but they were looking to change or they were recommended to us, and then they will express that hey, we're getting, it might be a little more expensive, but you really are getting what you pay for.
I've worked with a lot of different types of clients, and whether it's like something as simple as like house cleaning or all the way up to like a professional service, typically people's first interaction with a new category of vendor is like, I'm going to go with the cheapest, most accessible option because I don't really know any different. And then kind of premium vendors like PHENIX are generally people's, like next level when they're burned by the lower level vendor. Is that consistent with your experience?
Yeah, I mean, we get a lot of those tire kicking conversations that come in, and I think what helps set us apart is we're not afraid to tell people to go try those. People will be like, oh, well, I saw I could get this amount of information or this same information for this price, and it's like, go ahead. We encourage you to go out and spend your money and go do the most due diligence that you can. And when that still doesn't answer your question, you're going to come back to us, but you're going to be more in the hole. So it's up to you. The road usually leads back to us. So we're here either now or we're here later when you've spent more money. So, and I think that surprises a lot of people when you turn away business to tell them to go spend their money elsewhere. But it also gives them that confidence that of like, okay, if you're going to tell me to go do something else, you're pretty confident in what you can do in the product that you guys are pushing.
Is it a lot of your sort of like entry level asset searches are, someone said, hey, I can do this public record search for self-serve, not much, and they don't see the gap?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have that conversation a lot. I mean, some of that financial profile, part of that is a lot of just going through public records. Property information's public record. Some vehicle information, not really. Business information can be public record, but it's like, okay, where are you going to go to get that information? People don't understand, don't know where to go, don't know how to get it. It's like, okay, well, are you going to have the next 25, 40 hours to set aside in the next week or 2 weeks for you to sit down and get this information together in a format that you can take to your attorney that he can then take to court? It's like, that's where we come in. You're not only buying just the information that we can offer, but you're allowing us to do it in the time frame that you need for court, and or to take to your attorney to get the ball rolling or what have you. So it's not only public records are always out there, but every county is different, every state's different, every state has different wording, every state has information hidden in different portions. And we have a lot of that figured out. So you're paying for that shortcut to get that information quicker.
And how are they verifying that information? We have multiple data points to be able to verify accurate information. So
it's funny. It sounds a lot like the, AI is going to replace everything instantly conversations. Like, well, you have to know what to put into it. You have to know what the output should look like. You have to know what's right and wrong.
100%.
It's not so easy.
right, and just like anyone else, we, have tried to stay up to par. We've started integrating AI, but it still doesn't compare to a real human connecting all the data points. So just touching back to a financial profile and an advanced asset, I'd say a financial profile a lot of times is used in due diligence. It's I want to take the step forward, but I don't know if I want to spend that much money, or I don't know if this is what I really need.
So,
Okay.
Joel, what is, not like the cost or the time frame, but what is this? Are there specific differences between the financial profile and the advanced asset? Like, you guys have these are packaged products in PHENIX world. Like, for the customer, what is the functional difference between your financial profile and the advanced asset?
Yes, I mean, the biggest thing is the time that we have to look into. I mean, the financial profile gives you some good basic information, but it doesn't allow us to have the hours investigative time to go back historically to look at anything. So that is really just surface level. What do they own currently, and what does their kind of financial structure look like? So, property, vehicles, businesses, so that's income, and very limited of what's actually going out of their bank account, and then the checking, savings, money market accounts. The advanced asset gives us that the amount of time. I would say probably 2 to 3.5 times the amount of hours to actually go back through and not only get that surface level information, but look historically at transfers, other opportunities that they have to hide information, other deals that they may have screwed somebody else over. So, we get to look back at historical patterns, all of those things. And so it's not only what you're seeing now, but what was in the past. A lot of times, like I said before, knowing what somebody had held a year ago and now they have nothing, it's like, okay, where did that stuff go and how did they hide it, or how did they lose it? And that can tell a very telling story for what they currently hold and what they're going to be doing in the next 6 months or so.
You said the P word that every expert that we talk to says is pattern recognition. And that's like what so much of expertise really is when you see one thing, you have a pretty good inference on what that connects to and what that means beneath the surface.
100%. Yeah. And I mean, I would say my pattern recognition a lot of times, or what I excel in, is cases that have very complicated business structures. I think a lot of people come to me when they have those, and we get those all the time. We get the serial incorporators. So you can walk into your Secretary of State's office, or even now it's basically all online. Create a new business for $150, and you can get a brand new FEIN to go open up a bank account to continue to hide your money. And people don't understand of laying out that web of people who have that pattern and have 100 businesses and 65 of them are closed. It's like, okay, if you're not a millionaire, what are you doing with 35 open businesses? And so most people who are trying to hide money, they do it a couple of ways. They either do it successfully and they kind of just leave no trace. They have that understanding of how financial records work and those types of things, or people just bury it underneath enough information that people aren't going to spend the money to go through and sift through all of that information to find it. And I think that's where we come in, because you could go buy that list of 100 businesses and it's like, oh, what are you going to do with it now? What does that tell you? And that's where our expertise comes in. It's like, well, yeah, I've had 30 cases just like this year. That's what this person does. He's opening up these businesses to bury the information deep enough that you don't want to spend the money to go looking for it, and you're never going to find it. And so how do we dismantle that structure to figure out where those pain points are for that person.
That's interesting. I think that like explaining it like to a 5-year-old, I think I just had an aha moment that segues into this. So like I can go see a bunch of stuff online, but I don't know what it means in relevance to the case. Like I can go see some public records if I want to go pick through the scammiest sites on the internet and enter a bunch of information, but it doesn't really mean anything if you don't know what to do with it. So, Ange, I'll let you finish the answer here. Why should I not use public records and try and do this myself? What am I missing from going into ChatGPT and trying to find the right places to find public records and going to source it? Why should I call you and just do it for me?
There's a lot of reasons.
I figure, yeah.
A lot of times, people will come to us and they'll have like a Truth Finder report, which is a big main, Google, and there it is, and they pay $10.99, and it's really just a mass conglomerate of data that nobody has verified, no one has fact checked, and it's just word vomited to you on a document, and you don't know what it is or if it's accurate, and then you start making assumptions. And we get that a lot from domestic clients. They'll have done some type of research, they think they've found some type of lead or avenue, and they've really clung to it, and then our investigation becomes about disproving that information instead of doing something that would actually help them. So yes, we like our clients to provide us information they know, but they also need to trust us when we tell them this is not accurate, or this is why we're able to verify or disprove something they've provided. It just becomes messy because there's not someone with pattern recognition or a professional opinion to give them advice or to let them know one way or the other.
It's just again and again and again, experience, half of it is what you shouldn't do and why what you thought you could do is wrong and doesn't work. Like we all have like a natural inclination to pick our own path forward. We just want to run into brick walls and step on rakes until we burn out. And just, you're into something very complicated, so just call an expert and save yourself the time and headache.
100%.
So like a lot of times when, say, we're talking about doing like website content to inform visitors, we talk about what are the most frequently asked questions that your customers ask, and I ask those. Then we have this idea of if your customers were more sophisticated and knew more about your business and the competitive landscape, what should they ask you to really understand the difference between PHENIX and people in your industry?
Yeah, so I mean, I think starting that off with, what happens at the end. I think if you go to a lot of other investigative companies and you ask that question, I don't know what answer you're going to get. I think you can ask about any one of our investigators, Brian, and you're going to get the answer of like, well, A, we don't know until we get through with our investigation. But B, we're going to take that information, whatever it is, good or bad, we're going to tell you what that information means and how or what the next steps are going to be. And then a lot of times we lay out those, okay, well, here in our professional opinion, this is what we think you guys should do, A, B, C, A, B, whatever it is, and here's the roadmap to go do it. And then it's up to you whether you include us or not. Some of that may be surveillance. So a lot of times our asset investigations will lead to surveillance. So did we find a bunch of really high-end assets, expensive cars, expensive property? It's like, okay, well, this property on paper may be expensive, but is it run down? Did they trash it? Did they burn it to the ground for insurance purposes or whatever? So now we need to go out and actually look, are the assets that we found collectible for you? A lot of domestic clients or regular citizens that come to us, they want the next step with attorneys. So we have, a handful of attorneys that we can give out their information, or hey, these are the experts that we've worked with in your situation, to now take it to the legal next step for you. So go talk to them, and then once that process starts, we have more recommendations to do on top of that. So for me, I think that's one of the biggest questions to ask somebody is, okay, once I get done with whatever I purchase first, what's going to happen after?
To feed off that, Joel, I think we're proactive is what sets us apart from some other companies. Not only at the end, but we're proactive at the beginning because we aren't going to just blindly follow orders from whoever. It doesn't matter if it's an attorney, a business person, a domestic client. They come to us, they want something specific done. If we see that something else is going on when we begin the investigation, or there are things that are concerning to us, we let the client know right then. And if the direction of the investigation needs to change, then that change of course is made then, and not at the end when we've already spent money going in one direction just because the client wanted us to. That doesn't mean it was the best decision. So I think we offer a lot of communication about those types of situations where you need to be proactive.
That's so big because I would say in my experience, just most vendors in general would rather walk the easy path than the path that is a little bit more, there's a little more interpersonal friction maybe, but the outcome is better. When I talk to Jill, your COO, and Brian, you can tell that there's a culture around like service and direct communication and directness that you guys are both echoing. And I think that that's sort of, people take that for granted, like an attention to service and being willing to have a hard conversation. And I think that that's a huge benefit that is under-discussed and under-thought about.
100%. I mean, I think that is one of the big things that sets us apart. And I've said it several times of, I will come out and tell my clients that, I may say something that you're not going to like to hear. And if you get mad, if you get angry, whatever, like tell me. I want to hear those things, and not only that, we're also not here to just bark at you either. So I've hit on that before of like, we're not going to get clients that are going to just bark orders at us. We're also humble enough to know that, you're not stupid. You're a great business person. You're an attorney. You're going to have good ideas as well. So, I mean, maybe we haven't thought of something, or because we have looked at this side of the picture that you have an idea that helps on this side of the picture. And we're going to listen to you, and we'll walk down all of those ideas with you, good or bad. We'll talk through them. And if they are really good and they are something that we want to pursue, we make that decision together. And it's never going to be like, oh, well, you're just an idiot. You don't know. I'm the expert. We also know that we don't know everything.
I look obviously through a lot of like the business data behind PHENIX, and one thing that is really, really clear is your B2B customers, the attorneys, there is a lot of repeat purchases. Like it's uncommon for someone that is in the legal space to be a one-shot customer for PHENIX. Say I come to you and you personally do a case for me. What does the next interaction look like? Am I coming directly to you, or how does the communication work at PHENIX?
Yeah, I mean, being here for going on 7 years now, I have several repeat attorney clients that directly come to me. I have some that I've set up that connection, and they've now broadcasted it to the rest of their attorneys and the firm. Maybe that one person comes to me, but the rest of the firm just calls in or sends it to Brian or Steve or whoever. So I think some of that is just how each person handles it. I probably have, a handful, maybe 8 or 9 clients that directly come to me with everything. They have never talked to Steve, and Steve's been here for a couple of years. They either call me, email me, and every new case that is done, they only speak with me no matter what. And that's not saying that if I'm too busy, if I'm going to be out of the office, that I don't hand it off to somebody else. But I also will sit down and let them know, like, hey, Ange is going to take this on. She is, just as good as me. She's another great person. And then the next interaction is again back with me. So it kind of depends on the person, but I think each of us have a list of those people that come directly to us, and then some of them that just call PHENIX in general.
And if I get a direct referral, I do try to take it because they, they directly referred, and I'm sure Joel, you get that too. It's like, no, I worked with Joel or Ange, and that's who I want to work with. It's like, okay, I'll take that person.
That's awesome. And we do have on recording that Joel said that you're a great person, Ange. So he can't.
That's
notate
great.
it.
I'm like, you
One
could
and
send
only
that to me. I think I could make a funny video.
Okay. Well, yeah, we'll take a spin at that. And same for you. You have people communicate indirectly and do as much as you can to serve them. What else? I think that this has been actually a really valuable conversation. I did not know about the categories of, what is it? Permissible
purpose.
That's interesting. That's something I need to look up a little more and probably put on the website. It's just a concept I'm totally unfamiliar with, and it makes sense kind of why you're allowed into the lane that gives you a different access level.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't. I mean, we dance on that side or on that line for both. I mean, I've had clients ask me, and whether they know or not, hey, I need this information. It's like, well, no, that's literally illegal for me to get.
Yes.
And I've had a couple of clients in the past that's like, well, I want that information. It's like, okay, well, are you asking me to do illegal things to get that information? And it's like, I will tell you before you answer. If your answer is yes, we're ending the conversation. We're done.
Well, I still have attorneys that will say, I'm not asking you to do something illegal, but you just do what you need to do. It's like, nope, we don't do anything illegal here. We have licensure that we have to maintain as well.
That's funny. Like, one of the first conversations I had with Brian was like, I just feel like the Hollywood stigma around PIs is it's like this Vegas-y semi-illegal sort of shakedown thing. He was like, no, there are very strict professional standards that have to be upheld. Like, what we're trying to do is get court admissible evidence. It's not the mafia. That's
Yeah, we have that conversation, not on a daily basis by no means, but I mean, again, I think it's just that expectation, the buzzwords that people have heard, the stuff they're referencing memory from TV shows and stuff like that. Hey, can we, get the information? You see it all the time in a movie. It's like, hey, I need everything from Joe Smith. And it's like the PI takes that, and in 2 days they have this, 30-page dossier on this person. It's like that's not real. What we do does take time, and not only that, it also takes money, and many different resources, many different data points that we go through and actually check off. We're never going to give you a piece of information that we haven't seen 2 to 3 to 4 times in 4 different locations. So, everything that we're going to give you is double-checked, triple-checked of this is what is out there and this is what we see to be true. So, yeah, I think a lot of those misconceptions come in all shapes and sizes, and we have to make sure that people understand that and rein their expectation back in of what is actually possible that we can do for them.
Yeah. I had 2 things, Scott, I wanted to add before we
absolutely
hop off. One, I just wanted to point out that, like, with Sphere all coming together, and there are, I'm sure, things that our sister companies do that are similar to us, but we are the true asset investigators. We, have a lot of processes and resources specific to assets. I think in addition to being a full investigative service company, the assets really sets us apart. And what's unique about asset investigations that, Joel, if you want to add to this, when you're doing a surveillance case or special investigation, sometimes there's room for other people in that investigation. So you might pull in someone, who's actually the boots on the ground and you're managing it, or maybe someone's doing a piece of it for you so that you can keep going down that, more complex path of field work. But with an asset investigation, typically what I like to do is it has to be me to do it. From beginning to end, I am the person that knows everything about that investigation. That's what helps us form that professional opinion for our client. It's why I think we get so invested, because I'm not saying, hey, Annie, do this. Joel, you do this part. I'm going to do the banking part. No, it's I am the investigator from the start to finish, and then, if there's additional steps, I'm helping you make that decision.
So in like some investigations, like you were mentioning, are like very project management based, is you take a need in and you go kind of call the plays and quarterback it. But your work in the asset world, and that's why I think Phoenix is known as the asset search firm, is there's an ownership and an attachment to it that just, the more you care, the better results you get in almost everything.
Right.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, our investment, I think we've talked about this. I don't know if it's been recorded or anything, but one of the most personal cases that has hit home for me is nowhere near the most amount of money that I've ever brought in for the firm. It was a child custody case that a lady maxed out her credit card to pay for the $3,000 investigation because her husband owned two multi-million-dollar restaurant companies and went into court with his pockets turned out, telling the judge that he didn't have any money. And the judge, whatever he had to provide to the judge believed him, and the mom didn't get anything, any support, any child support, and she's trying to raise two or three kids by herself now. And because of our report and what we were able to put on paper for her, she got all of that reversed, and now she is forcing him to help pay for that, pay for his kids that he should do in general. But I got a call, I think, a month after the investigation, and she's in tears just thanking us. And, for a couple of grand, like I said, it's nowhere near the amount of money I've ever brought in for the company, but that's been the case that I've remembered, from start to finish.
I mean, that's awesome. You changed multiple people's lives.
Joel, mine's also a child custody case that hits home the most. It was actually a local guy here in Indiana who I think was going through child custody for a long time, and just one day his wife decided to I don't know, whatever the situation was, just take the kids and go. And out of state, and he didn't know where. And because it's out of state, it takes a lot of resources to coordinate over multiple jurisdictions once you actually even find the children to bring them back. And that was personal to me because that happened to me when I was a kid. One of my parents took off with us. And it's scary not only for the other parent, but for the kids too. And so we were actually able to find where the mother-in-law had purchased her a home. And sure enough, she was there, and he got the kids back.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's nice to have things that like really mean something, to make the work feel like something. Because like the reality of a lot of what we do is kind of business people rifling huge amounts of money in every direction, and it's nice when there's some touchy-feelies and some hugs attached to it.
Yeah, and we don't always get to know the end result. Sometimes things go beyond us. Like I said last time we spoke, we're a big important part of the puzzle, but sometimes it then expands to having a forensic examiner or some other type of expert in whatever the matter might be, and we don't always get to know what happens. So it is nice to have good outcomes to hold on to.
How hard is it to do so much work and then just send a report out and not know what happens?
It gets easier, for sure.
I was just about to say, I think it bothered me when I first started, and now almost 4.5, 5 years later, doesn't bother me at all.
I think that's a good next episode, is just what is it like to be new and how does it feel after you become grizzled?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely some probably goods and bads in that conversation.
Yeah, well, I mean, Joel, you did, unfortunately, pull the curtain back and show that you do have feelings in there, bud.
Oh, 100%. Don't come out very often, but yeah, I mean, there definitely is some cases that I've done that hit you in your feelings, and good and bad, pissed off. My dad, I've always had that. That's kind of what pushed me into this direction anyway. My father was a police officer, volunteer firefighter, EMS for most of my childhood, and so hearing those stories of the times that he got to change people's lives for the better. Even though I didn't follow through on the law enforcement side of it, it's so good to hear that that what we are doing actually does change people's lives. And I tell a lot of the new investigators that it's super easy to get stuck into, we're just filling out reports, writing stuff down, and you're sending it off, and not understanding the impact that your words and your some opinions that you're putting into your reports have, what that effect has on somebody else's lives. And that's why people are so emotional when they come to us, and that's why I think it is beneficial to get emotionally invested to a certain degree, but then we have to keep that in check for us as well, to have those hard conversations that we have with people. And it's I understand that you don't want to hear that you're going to lose $100,000, but I'm going to tell you one way or the other, that if that's true, that's what's going to happen. Or the opposite side, if you will believe me when I tell you that there's 2 or 3 more steps that we have to take to actually get the $100,000 back. And another thing that sets us apart is we're going to tell you both ways, and it's not just going to be the one that benefits us.
There's a lot of business value in hearing what you don't want to hear sometimes.
Yeah, very, very much so. It's hard conversations, but
When you're when you're
No, go
talking
ahead.
about how you're thinking of ideas for other episodes or for the website, a big thing that comes to my mind is I hear crazy stories from attorneys or business people all the time of, well, if they had just Googled this person's business or this name, or if they had just, and I'm not, we don't, to some extent, don't want to promote too much due diligence, because then where do we come in on the back
I
end?
know.
But at the same time, there's a huge market for that. If we could do some asset due diligence and people were more aware of that, or heard some of these horror stories that happens when you don't take the precaution.
I would love to do that. It's interesting because we did an episode with Luda Kogan. She's an attorney in Florida last, I think, week. And I asked her, what would you tell people? What advice would you give to the general public from your world? And she said, it's not really something that I do, but just have people review contracts before you sign them when you're engaging in business. And I think it's similar. There are just so many horror stories that happen that could have been avoided by looking a little bit beneath the surface. So yeah, think about those, because I'd love to do this again with you guys. This has been a really good episode, and good first effort. It's not easy being on staring into the face of the camera. But both of you guys did really well. And I appreciate you guys giving us an hour. I know you're busier than hell, especially when everybody's down in Florida chatting. But thanks for the time, and
yeah, thanks for
excited
having
to do
us
this again.